Hello, friends. This is Molly with Soul School Tarot and Astrology, and I am here with you guys today for your astro forecast for the new moon in Virgo on September 17th. If you guys are new to the channel, welcome. I am so glad that you're here. Thank you in advance for your likes, shares, subscribes, and comments. All of those support the channel in ways that you cannot even imagine. It also just kind of makes my day. So thanks a lot. Thank you for spending some time with me today. The purpose of an astro forecast is basically for me to let you guys know what's going on whenever we have a new moon and a full moon. What else is going on in the sky at the time of the new moon or the full moon? Because that energy is going to be affecting all of us throughout the course of the next 4 weeks. So new moon energies overlap with full moon energies. My last astro forecast was for the full moon in Pisces in early September, and that's actually going to come up later in our conversation today. But like I said, this astro forecast, new moon in Virgo, this energy is going to be good for the next 4 weeks or so until we get up to the new moon in Libra. So let's go ahead and talk about that, and then I'll go ahead and bring back in why the full moon in Pisces was pretty significant when we look at the energies that have been at play when it comes to our decision-making processes throughout the course of 2020. So before I get into that, new moons, if you guys aren't already aware, new moons are a great time to begin something new. Between now and the full moon, the actual image of the moon that we see in the sky is going to be growing. It's going to be getting bigger. So anything that you're trying to increase in your life should be your focus during the new moon if you guys are working on magic or manifestation. A new moon in an earth sign, which Virgo is an especially powerful time to bring something into your reality, something tangible, something useful, something grounded, something probably long-lasting. This particular new moon in Virgo is actually trining, aka it's at a positive, a harmonious aspect to Pluto and Saturn, who are hanging out in the same area of Capricorn. Capricorn's another earth sign. Capricorn is all about hard work. It's about stability. It is about prosperity. It's about power moves, essentially. So this new moon in Virgo, if you guys are thinking about starting something new that's going to bring prosperity or stability into your life, you're getting an extra boost from those two planets in Capricorn. I will say, whatever it is that you guys are trying to initiate at this point in time is likely the reflection of some deep-seated changes. Maybe a little bit of an inner transformation that you guys have been going through, that we've all been going through over the course of the past 6 months. This is an energy that has matured us and has affected the decisions that we're making and the ways in which we're willing to invest in ourselves. And the reason why I say this transformation has taken probably about the past 6 months is because when I get to looking at the planetary configuration on the new moon in Virgo and then the full moon in Virgo that we had back in March, I'm seeing that it's quite likely that at this point in time, you are willing to invest in something that you likely rejected about 6 months ago. All right. So just as new moons are a time to start something new, full moons are a time to release something that you feel has reached its full capacity. It has reached its natural end. It's done all it's going to do for you. It's time to let it go. And so that's what a lot of you guys did back on, what's the date? March 9th. Around March 9th, some point in time at the beginning of March. And if we go back in our little time machine and think about what our life was like back in March, especially here in America, compared to what it is like now, that's really, I remember that being just about a week before they decided to close the schools because of the pandemic. And I do live in Kansas, which was the first state to close the schools for the remainder of the school year. But that happened about a week after the full moon in March. I'm just mentioning that to give you guys context. Last time the moon, we had a moon, a lunation, if you will, in Virgo, our world was very different, was it not? We didn't really have any idea that our lives would be so drastically changed over the course of this 6 months. And so there's a very, very good chance because of that and some other factors that are going on astrologically at the time of this full and new moon in Virgo, it's really quite likely that what you released 6 months ago is something that you are now desiring to go back and regain. Life has changed and you have changed. Oh my Lord, we've all changed. The planets have made sure of it. This has been a year of maturation. That's what the planets have been up to, calling us out on our old BS, getting us to stand up for ourselves, getting us to reject old paradigms that are no longer serving us, really getting us to step into our own power. And it hasn't been easy. And most of us have probably made some mistakes. So if you're kind of beating yourself up because you're in a situation where you're looking at the projects you want to begin at this new moon in Virgo, and you're looking back at how 6 months ago you let that thing slip by you, don't worry. You were under the influence of Neptune retrograde. Neptune, of course, is the planet of illusions, of fantasies, of projections, of escapism. Okay, so imagine, we talk about Mercury a lot. We talk about when Mercury is retrograde, that affects our clear, logical thinking mind because that's what Mercury represents, all right? Neptune represents our fantasy mind. So when it goes retrograde, we can begin to have some of our illusions, projections, fantasies kind of called out, clarified, or brought down to earth in sometimes kind of a painful way. And that's where Neptune is right now. Neptune is currently retrograde in Pisces. I've already mentioned Pisces before. It's where we had our last full moon at the beginning of September, and that energy is going to come back up again. We're actually going to be talking about 4 different moons. So let me talk about Neptune and Pisces energy first, and then we will track some of the dates. And if this is resonating with you, things are going to begin to fall into place, and it may help you move forward with the decision that you're trying to get right this time around. Pisces is the sign that's ruled by the planet Neptune, okay? And Pisces has a lot of duality. Whenever we're carrying a Pisces energy, we're essentially being torn in 2 different directions. Towards the grounded, the practical, the things that we can know and see and feel and touch. And then the other direction that we're getting pulled in is the direction of our imagination, our emotions. Like I said, fantasies and illusions, that which we wish to be versus that which we know to be true. This is important because the first of these 4 dates I'm going to bring you guys back to is February 23rd. Around February 23rd, or in the weeks following that date, chances are some of us kicked off because it was a new moon in Pisces. So many of us kicked off a new project, a new dream, a new fantasy, let's be honest, a new illusion, but invested in something at that time that even though we had no practical evidence that was good for us, it just seemed that way. This is one of those all that glitters is not gold moments. And don't worry, if that was you, if back towards the end of February, beginning of March, you took the first steps down a path that you later realized to be an illusion, don't feel bad, because that new moon was actually just a few degrees away from Mercury retrograde in Pisces. What that means is that even if you had looked around for the evidence, it would have eluded you. Everything that was going on, all of the information that was coming to you about this new start was being presented to you through rose-colored lenses. In other words, it was being dressed up, dolled up, maybe even just by the universe. But whatever you chose at that time seemed exceptionally appealing at that time. And 2 weeks later, when there was a full moon in Virgo, it led you to shed something that you felt was a little too grounded, a little too practical, a little too long-lasting, maybe a little too well-rooted. Yes, it probably would have been the responsible choice to hold on to that for later. But we all, under this energy, were under some sort of illusion about this new beginning and this new path that we were on. And there was something in our immediate environment that seemed to be getting in the way of that. Virgo represents the 6th house, our day-to-day. So there is something in our day-to-day environment that we saw as an obstacle to this beautiful yellow brick road that we were following. And so we left it behind in order to pursue, like I said, whatever it was that we began at the time of the Pisces new moon in late February. Now, 6 months after you have a new moon in a sign, you're going to have a full moon in the sign. And that's when those energies need to be revisited. So in this case, whatever yellow brick road you started down back in late February, early March, probably came to its end by the beginning of September. In fact, at the beginning of September, when we had that full moon in Pisces, that was in opposition to Venus. My apologies. Pluto at that time was in opposition to Venus. So at that point in time, it was really making us look at the hidden reality of some of our relationships or some of the things that we had been valuing, that we had been investing our time in. So as those illusions began to fall away, because now Neptune is retrograde, and when Neptune is retrograde, that's what happens. Illusions begin to fall away. So as those illusions fell away, a couple of weeks ago, we had this full moon in Pisces. And that was when a lot of us said to ourselves, you know what? It's really time to let this go. I can really see through the illusion of it. I can see the reality of it. It's really, really time to let this fantasy, this illusion go. Get off the yellow brick road, click my heels together, go ahead and go back home to Kansas, because that's where everybody that I love really is anyway. Like major Wizard of Oz vibes going on here. Right? You guys remember that? It's almost like when Dorothy was just like so angry at her family, all she wanted to do was get out of there. All she wanted to do was run away. And then by the time she gets down that yellow brick road and she sees all the things that exist in Oz, that's when she really, really, really begins to miss her home. So that's how some of you guys are beginning to feel right now. You've decided that you want to get back home. And this is the moment that some of you guys are realizing you could have gone home anytime. But you had to have this adventure. You had to have this journey in order to show you the true value of whatever it is that felt too grounded, too stable, too practical, or too long-lasting back in March. So as you guys begin to think of your future and what kind of seeds you would like to plant, or even Virgo is actually, it's the sign and the time of the harvest. So is there something, maybe a field you left untended, that you are ready to go back and reap the harvest of? Is there something more grounded, responsible, logical, practical, something that's going to give you what it is that you need on the day-to-day basis, rather than being sort of an escape from your everyday? So if you guys are thinking about that, if you're thinking about trying to click your heels and go back home, I pulled a couple of advice cards for you from my Healing the Mind and Spirit deck. The first one that I've got, you guys, I told you, just like the wizard said to Dorothy, you always had the ability to go home. In fact, it says, I already know how to achieve happiness. Your heart knows the path to happiness and inner peace. Spiritual practices such as meditation and prayer remind you of what you already know. I will let you know, Jupiter, the planet of spirituality, of expanded consciousness, and of expanded beliefs, has just gone direct on September 12th. So last Saturday, it went direct. And a lot of us are beginning to look at the bigger picture of things, and even from a more spiritual perspective. But understand, Dorothy could have clicked those heels at any point in time, and that truth was in you all the time. You just maybe had to go through that path, that journey, in order to really understand the value of what you had all along. This next one says, know your thoughts and assumptions, and realize that you may have swallowed them whole. Learn from your experiences. Discard outdated beliefs and thoughts. Another great piece of advice with Jupiter going retrograde. The affirmation with that is, I live my life knowing that experience is stronger than belief. And then finally, especially if you guys feel like you need to go back to a relationship that you left behind 6 months ago, listen to this advice. Renew your relationships through loving action. The relationship is living, alive in the present. It's not a thing of the past. So address what you need to about what occurred in the past, but also allow this creation under this new moon to be just that. Allow it to be something new, a new creation. So the affirmation here says, I honor my relationships with loving care and attention. I really hope that this Astro Forecast was helpful to you guys. I hope it brought some comfort, clarity, maybe some consolation. But most of all, you guys, you know what's good for you. You know what's good for you, but we know what's good for us can be hard sometimes too. So I will say the seasons are changing. Winter is coming. Our thoughts are beginning to shift towards things that are going to be with us on those long winter nights. So remember, your heart knows everything that you need to hear. All you got to do is listen to it. All right? Take care of yourselves, guys. I'll see you real soon.